Alright everyone, it's Midnight Green 20 here, back with yet another Third Strike tutorial slash discussion. This is going to be a little bit more on the discussion side of things. And today is actually going to be about a topic that was inspired by a conversation that I had somebody recently playing locally at one of the cabinets over at Siren Records in Doylestown. By the way, if you haven't been there yet and you're in the area or close to it, like up in New York, you want to come on down, I heavily suggest coming out because it's always a good time. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about learning how to save meter in a couple different situations. And I have a couple examples lined up to kind of get you guys thinking about maybe not always using all of your meter for a super in certain instances, learning how to get other punishes, or maybe not using all of your EX and saving some of it for later on in the round. So we're going to start off with a pretty basic example, and it's one that people who first start playing Ken might find a little bit surprising. So Ken, of course, we all know that SA3 rules the day with him. He has so many different options in terms of connecting to super, whether it's a straight up super cancel or a link to super, you name it, he's got it, right? Well, a couple times there are instances where you may not even want to use your super because, surprisingly enough, it actually doesn't do as much damage as another combo. So let's take this for example. Bread and butter combo for him. Crouching forward into super. 49 damage, as you can see in the top right of the screen. Pretty good, right? Well, take a look at this. Oh. 51 damage, and there is no meter being spent on that at all. As a matter of fact, let me change something over in the settings real quick too. Not for this example in particular, but for later on. Anyway, so look at that. 51 damage, I spent absolutely no meter. If I go ahead and even, let's just disable all of the meter right now. And just spend one bar real quick. Alright, so here's what it looks like if you don't even have any meter. Look at that. You get 60% of your bar off of one combo. I did more damage than a super, and I'm almost on my way to building up for one super bar. And that's pretty ridiculous. And also, if you happen to have an instance where you can do something like this with Close Fierce, now look at that, that's 57 damage. Now we're doing even more damage than a super off of Light Punch Shoryu, Light Punch Shoryu. A lot of people, when they start picking up Ken in the beginning, and maybe even later on down the line, they're going to always want to try to cancel into super because, hey, it's a guaranteed combo, plenty of damage, and you get 3 bars of it, right? Well, the problem is that in other instances where you don't have all 3 bars, if you're still trying to build meter, it's actually more effective to do this because you get more damage off of it, you build meter in the process. The stun value of it is pretty good too. I don't have stun turned on. Maybe I should go ahead and do that too while we're at it. Just to even show that off. Oh. I gotta do, what is it? Normal? Let's jab him out of that. That's an okay amount of stun. And then you have other normals like that. I mean, that's a chunk of it. The only reason why people refrain from this early on and even later on in their time as playing Ken is because in certain instances you have to carry the DP so that you can actually have the combo connect. If I do this without doing it, certain characters you can do it in the corner without carrying or carrying and get the combo to connect, and it's pretty easy. But other characters in the corner, you're going to have to carry the second DP to make sure it connects. People who are unsure of their execution are probably not going to opt to do this because they say, well, you know what, it's fine because at the end, the damage is comparable. Well, as it turns out, not really. You're actually shortening yourself a little bit of damage. And in certain cases, like with the Close Fierce, you're doing a hell of a lot less damage. And as we already shown before, the amount of meter that you gain off of it too is pretty substantial. So this is an instance where you're going to want to learn to get, for this case, you want to learn to get the execution down because you're really holding yourself back quite a lot. And then when you have this ability to do this combo and save the meter, for instance, where you have like crouch and medium punch, where the only way you get that off is with a link, or maybe you do a reversal punish off of a sweep, then you're really putting the pressure on your opponent because now you still have all this meter to work with, and now they have very few instances where they can afford to make a mistake because you have super waiting in the wing and in positions where normally if you didn't have that meter, maybe the punish wouldn't be so severe, or maybe you wouldn't have a punish at all. So now we're going to move on to the next scenario that I wanted to discuss, and this is actually the main inspiration for all of this. And we're going to go over to Kenya and talk about our girl Elena. I guess we could do Ryu for this example. Doesn't really matter, right?
Are you ready? Go.
Let's go ahead and get that meter all the way back up. We will do... you'll do auto recover. That way I don't have to waste all this time building meter. And here I want to show you another classic example. One I think that kind of... this is something more along the lines of where I'm trying to go with this entire conversation, because this is more about learning to substitute the guaranteed damage for less meter, but overall keeping meter left over for situations where you want to have it for a punish, or you want to have the ability to use some of your EX moves and not really waste the stock of super meter down the line. So here's the thing, right? You'll probably see people do this as a punish combo. But not that. We'll get to that in a second. But alright, so that did 59 damage right there. And you saw that it took more than 1 meter to do. Now if I do the typical... Now, I probably didn't get all the hits, because normally this is supposed to do more damage. I'm doing it wrong for some reason. Let me try it this way. Alright, so that's the full extent of the combo right there, and you can see that I got 69 damage, but I spent more than 1 bar of meter to get that to work. Whereas if I do just crouch and medium punch the super, I get 65. So you're spending a little bit more than 1 bar and you're only getting 4 more points of damage. In the end, would you really think to yourself that's really worth it? Probably not, because 4 points of damage that far down the line, not really worth the difference in having 1 full bar of super. In this case, if you were to have a fully maxed out bar, you still have a super left over to use, whereas if you were to do that full combo, then you have to build up a little bit more meter to get back to that point. But the conversation I had with somebody was this: we're going to do a similar combo, going to modify it just a little bit. And the point that they want to try to make was, as you can see, when I spend the meter, it's 64 points of damage. We already saw that crouch and medium punch the super is 65 points of damage, but if you take a look down at the meter below, well, don't look at it now, especially when I miss it, or I do that. So it can get, that time I messed it up a little bit, but you can see that it's supposed to do, whoops, it's supposed to do roughly the same amount of damage as super, if I can get it to work. And for some reason, I'm having difficulty doing it. Maybe this is even more of a reason why you don't want to do it. Because if you happen to mess it up, then you're really shortening yourself, but... There we go. So 64 points of damage, and you can see down below that I spent let's say roughly 65, 70% on my bar. The point that they were trying to make was, well, why wouldn't you want to do this combo because you're getting the same amount of damage as a super, but you're only spending 70% of a bar. And I raised to them a point that you actually don't even want to do all of this in this instance as a combo. Instead, you want to try doing something like this. Alright. Well, that's not what you want to do. You don't want to whiff. That. So, let's take a look at this real quick and why I would want to why I would recommend this over doing that whole combo for 64 damage. Minus the fact that I was messing it up, there's actually a good reason for this. And ooh, I haven't really practiced this much, so I apologize in advance. It's actually a little bit of a tight timing. Okay, so look, I did 47 damage, and you can see I only did about 20% of my bar. Now, if I were to do an entire sequence afterwards, let's try this, right? That throw gives me 17 damage, so 47 damage off of everything, plus the 17 with the throw, that's 64. For 20% bar and roughly 20% bar, I get the same amount of damage. Granted, the last bit of it being the throw isn't guaranteed, because at that point it's a wake up. It's essentially an Oki situation coming down from the target combo. But if the sequence hits, you're getting the same amount of damage for much less meter. And if I also do other things like, now we're talking about 20% or 20 damage on our last hit, so we're looking at 67 damage. The main reason why you're going to want to save all this meter is because of a couple things. First off, this combo, it doesn't really do anything in terms of positioning. Yeah, on the first bit with the EX Spin Scythe, you start pushing them to the corner, but then after the EX Rival Horn, now you flip the sides, and basically you actually kind of lose ground because you're putting yourself closer to the corner on the opposite side than you simply are pushing your opponent to the corner themselves. If you just go ahead and do the target combo, now you have the positioning that you want, because you're pushing your opponent a little bit more and you're actually gaining ground on them. The second reason why you don't want to spend all that meter is because, I'm not going to try to get too in depth with Elena as far as the character tutorial is concerned, but one of the main things with her that we all know is that she has a really good card throw, right? So you kind of want to keep yourself in that spot where you can start working on your card throw game or your throw game as a whole, because of when she has the threat of this going for it, on top of stuff like this to get over lows and to essentially hit whiff throws and occasionally like step back a little bit and then confirm the super. It's essentially the same kind of mix-up that you have to deal with Chun. And, we also have to talk about, overhead and the super, and all other sorts of stuff, right? And so because of that, if you were to just spend all of the meter, in this case too, you're not in as great of a position, and yeah, you could still in some instances get a bit of a wake up, but remember, this also depends on how quick their quick rise is, because in a lot of some other characters like the twins or Dudley who wake up really fast on quick rise, this Oki situation doesn't happen. But if I were to just do the target combo, I'm there all the time. It doesn't matter because everybody's going to end up falling the same. And then, like for added salt into the wound, once I get this down again. Ooh. Let's try here. Then you could do a little dash under, cross up shenanigans to add to your repertoire. Something that you don't have with the other combo that spends up, the EX Rhino Horn to the DP. That doesn't give you this situation. Only this particular one does. So yeah, on the one hand, you aren't doing it as much damage, and the last bit of damage, as I said before, isn't guaranteed. But if you look at how much meter is being used in this situation, let's go ahead and get that back up again one more time for you. When you factor in the throw right there, you can see that it's very little damage. And then if I were to do anything like this, which also builds a decent amount of meter, or any other kind of normal, this combo basically pays for itself, and then you still do the same amount of damage as before. But a lot of people are going to... this is another situation where people might kind of get a little bit concerned, and they don't want to do this because the damage isn't guaranteed. They want to just take the good chunk of damage that they know they can already get, as opposed to putting some of it up at risk. But the problem is in this game is that at some point you are going to have to learn to be really good at your offense and learn to deal with these Oki situations. It's not just something that is particular to this combo. It's something that all characters have to deal with, and it's something that is important to your growth. Because if you can also get this off consistently, then you're getting so much free damage and meter on top of it that it's much more worth it down the line to just get better at reading your opponent on defense than to just take the guaranteed chunk of damage and, essentially put yourself in a less advantageous position. Now, if the combo were to kill on the final round, sure, go ahead and blow all the meter you want. But as a general practice, I don't think it's a good idea to just go ahead and throw all that meter away just for one guaranteed chunk of damage, when you could just as easily get it, plus build more meter on top of it, and have tons of meter left over for a super, and even have leftover EX meter for something else, like in this case, like a Mallet Smash, if you want to mix that up. Or, hell, you know what? Let's just say, for instance, that they, after the combo... Let's go ahead and do it one more time. Do it again. Let's do it again. And they flinch and do a DP here. Then you get a full punish and you can do this a second time. And if they're in a corner, then you get even more damage. So really everything up to this point, I would say, is just like try to learn to read your opponent on defense a little bit more, and save the meter down the line by just getting good punishes and such, and not take the guaranteed damage, because you'll hurt yourself down the line when you really want to have that meter and you have to start fighting back for it again, and that could be your opponent's opportunity to start getting in. And then on top of all that, like I said before, with Elena working in her car throw game and all this stuff and having that going, when you can start building up on that and putting your opponent in these situations as early as possible, then that kind of helps your game down the long run when you get them cornered and now they're really scared about it, and you hit them with this, or you get them to flinch and, something like that. And I'm going to have one more example for you before we end this video, and it's going to be something a little similar. Actually, let's go ahead and change the level too. And now it's time to talk about our boy Duds. Dudley. Now this is going to be something of a similar vein in terms of holding on to the meter and learning to read your opponent on defense, as opposed to just spending all the meter in one shot. But this is a little different, because in this case we're not talking necessarily about adding damage, as we are just get ourselves a really advantageous position. So what am I talking about here? Well, it's all about learning. It's all about this idea that a lot of people talk about when early on, and even some pretty high level players will discuss this, and I don't agree with it, which is ending your combo with super because it gives you a guaranteed knockdown. So let's look at it like this. Oh, I messed that up right there. But And that's not it either. But if I were to just, I'm going to try this one more time. Whoop, wrong one. What's the command for this again? Oh, shows you how little. Oh shit. Let me also turn off stun too while I'm at it. Sorry. Alright, there we go. Okay. Did a little too early. Alright. I didn't get that to land. But the idea is that you do this whole extended combo. Maybe I do it with that. Let me try that. I think it's short. Damn, I can't get it at all. So I wonder what I'm doing wrong. But anyway, let's just simplify it like this. Maybe that's not it. What can I do? Oh. I guess it doesn't work in the corner, huh? Or I'm doing it too slow. But I want to just try to emphasize. Oh, there it was. And then I didn't get the super. There we go. So this, right? Because of that, you get a you get a guaranteed rose setup afterwards. So if I do that again. Oop. Oop. I wonder why that's coming out so late. And you get this, right? That is essentially why people would try to end a lot of their combos with a corkscrew, for instance, in this instance, right? Because you get a hard knockdown, and what that means is that they can't quick rise, and then you have a guaranteed row setup. Now, I didn't time that properly. There's depending on the character, there's like a normal you have to whiff, and then you do this to get the proper timing where that rose becomes meaty. And basically, you guarantee a lockdown on your opponent for that period of time. As opposed to where if I were to do a full combo like this. I did there, except I missed a DP. Let's go one more time. That was actually too low. That one I could tell. Damn. Alright, one more time for the camera. The timing of it is a little tricky because you want to get the corkscrew blow you want to cancel that as soon as possible into the next one, and I think that's where I'm messing up. And it's the pressure of being live on YouTube. Oh no. Pressure's getting to me. Anyway. Damn. I could get this in my sleep normally. And I can't do it now when I need it the most. Alright. Oh, I didn't get the DP there. Shit. Yeah, I don't know why I'm not getting it today. Oh. Now this is going to be not a tutorial, but watching me struggle with execution to get a basic combo with Dudley down. But I have an excuse. I don't play this character. I didn't really prepare for this part of it. There we go. So there, in that instance, you know, you get a good chunk of damage, but the only problem is that they get a quick rise afterwards, so you don't get the row setup at all. You basically just have to play just a normal Oki situation like before, and you just got to get good at reading your opponent. And the thing is that with Dudley, like even there, for instance, right? If we added a super on top of that, we basically spend a little bit more, like a bar and a quarter, like a bar and a third, just to get that guaranteed knockdown, as opposed to if we just spend the meter on this. Yeah, see there, I got it there. I'm only spending like a quarter of the bar. And the only thing I don't have is a guaranteed knockdown. And there are other ways you can do this too. It's not just this particular combo. You'll see people do stuff like this. Now, admittedly, there is more damage to this combo for sure, right? Because you don't have as much scaling involved, but it's still the same thing. In certain situations where you're looking for that guaranteed knockdown. And so again, it becomes a matter of are you able to read your opponent on a defensive situation, and can you just get the supers to come, the super confirms, like your overheads or your shorts, or even just like doing this stuff and confirming the super that way. You're spending a good chunk of meter, just like you're spending one whole bar at the very least, and in these cases, you can also do this mid screen as well. Whoop. Throw him over here. Whoop, not that. So again, it's not a whole lot of damage added onto it, but you're just getting a guaranteed knockdown, and you're spending so much meter for that you have to really ask yourself, you know, is this something that you should be doing all the time? And honestly, the answer is no, because again, if you just learn to read your opponent on defense and get these super confirms without it, then you're saving yourself meter down the line. And in particular, if you're in the first round especially, you want to have a lot of meter saved up for the winning round, where then you can kind of just unload on them, get a couple of supers back to back, and that's pretty much the round. Now again, this is also situational. If it is the last round and you want to guarantee yourself a row setup and you have meter to spend, yeah, it could be worth it. I'm not saying this is something that is flat out wrong to do ever, but again, this is just something that you have to consider and take the situation into consideration later on down the line. Apologize for that, because you know, if your opponent is very flinchy in terms of knockdown situations, like they're always DPing, or they're always trying to throw and they're just whiffing throw left and right, then you can just use that information and punish them for it and not have to spend the meter to do it, because they're giving you the opportunity to hit them, and you have to take that opportunity when it presents itself. But like I said, in situations where if it is the last round, or maybe if it's the first round and you want to guarantee yourself to win because like it's the second round, you lost the first round, and now you want to give yourself a chance, and this is your way to do it, then again, you could it's probably worth it. But it'll help you out in the long run, as I said before with Elena, to try to just learn to read your opponent on defense without a hard knockdown, because then you're saving yourself a lot of meter in the long run for more EX machine gun blows, or just having a full stock of super for a punish, or for a combo later on down the line, like after you get yourself a knockdown of some sort, and then you can start working in your normal mix-ups. So that's going to wrap it up for today's video. What I hope to have accomplished with you guys today, for those of you who watch this, is that you start thinking about your meter usage a little bit more. Not always wanting to spend it at any given time just because you have it. Learning to save it for later on, especially in the next round when you're probably going to need it more to guarantee yourself to win. And also to start thinking about, all right, what are my best punishes? Is there a punish that I can do that gets me the same amount of damage as a super, or in some cases more damage than a super? And I just don't know about that yet, and I should start looking into that, because if you start doing that, then you're going to really start tilting the matches in your favor, because you're going to have all this meter left over for punishes, for other confirms. And when you start doing that and adding that into your repertoire, in my opinion, you really start becoming a huge threat, because then you're not going to have to spend some of the match like sitting back and whiffing normals, or you're going to have to settle for smaller punishes because you just don't have the meter to do it. You can continue to build that meter and always have it as a resource and become a threat more of the time than not. And so what I hope that I've accomplished with you guys today is that you start thinking a little bit more like that down the line. And so once again, I'd like to thank you guys for watching this video. Take a look at some of my other previous videos. I don't have a lot on Third Strike yet, but I'm still adding stuff as we go and coming up with more concepts. If there's anything that you would like to see in terms of a topic to talk about, go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll come up with some other stuff on my own as well, and continue to give you guys a couple more discussion style videos that we can go over, like in this, or maybe even more character specific stuff later on down the line. But again, I would like to thank you guys for watching, and make sure you hit that subscribe button on your way out. Till then, I'll see you guys later.